Welcome back to Washington Watch. I am your host, Tony Perkins. Over the course of this week and next, we're devoting a segment each day to highlight the human rights abuses of the Chinese Communist Party. We're calling this segment Human Rights on Ice. Today, we are going to discuss the growing repression of Christians by the Chinese Communist Party. From Tiananmen Square to today, what have we seen unfold and where is China heading? In fact, they're just waiting for the cameras to be turned off after the Olympics, and new restrictions are about to be placed on Christians. Joining me now to talk about this is Bob Fu, FRC Senior Fellow for International Religious Freedom and President of the Texas-based human rights organization China Aid. Bob, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony, for having me again.
So, Bob, can you take us through the past few decades? I mean, you go back to Tiananmen Square and the push for, in what looked like a moment in which China might experience freedom, but that's not been the case. It's actually gotten much worse.
You're exactly right, Tony. I mean, in 1989, the Communist Party committed a massacre. By 2008, the International Olympics Committee rewarded the Beijing Summer Olympics in Beijing with the promise from the Communist Party leaders, human rights, religious freedom will be improved. But from that time on, less than 2 decades later, in 2022, we have seen China has entered into the worst religious persecution against Christians, against the Uyghur Muslims, against all people of faith. And yet the Communist Party got a reward and hosting the Beijing Winter Olympics right now. On the day one, on February the 4th, 2022, last week, when the Olympics was opening, having his political show with the IOC committee chairman, with the Putin there, with the other dictators on the stage, a house church leader from Beijing Holy Love Fellowship, Dr. Xu Yinghai, who is the elder of a house church, was put under house arrest. And he would not be released until February 21st. That's the closing day of the Olympics. Millions of Chinese house church leaders had received a message not to worship anymore during the Olympics.
Well, Bob Fu, you have also written about March 1st, after these Olympics are over. We're not going to see a reformed China that is going to be impacted by the Western world and more, expansive with the freedoms that they allow. They'll actually be cracking down on Christians even more. Explain that.
Well, Tony, as you know, the Chinese Communist Party make China as a really digital totalitarian tyranny right now. I mean, thanks to the Apple's complicity that the Chinese Apple phone users are no longer able to download any Bible-related apps. So the Bible apps had been totally removed from millions of Chinese users. And now with the social credit system, and also on March the 1st, the Communist Party has already passed a new law on regulated online religious contents that basically, if you organize an online prayer meeting, or if you put a Bible verse on the social media, you could be subject for the subversion of state power charge, up to 5 to 15 years imprisonment. So this is going to only get worse after the Olympics.
In addition to this, I mean, we've got, I think, nearly 100 million Christians in China. Through the digital control, they're also going to be essentially censoring Bibles. So they're going to have they're going to make sure the Bibles they read are in sync with the Communist Party.
That's right. It's called the syncretization. Basically, any Bible teaching, if it's still allowed in the government-sanctioned church building, and you have to teach it incompatible with the socialism and communism ideology. I mean, how could this happen? All the official church leaders have to pledge its absolute loyalty to the party leader Xi Jinping first. So I would ask this question to Coca-Cola, to Nike, to NBC, who are the big sponsors of this political showcase like Hitler did in 1936. How could you, with a good conscience, continue to broadcast, to be enablers of this religious persecution and genocide with the 1 to 3 million are still in the concentration camp?
A very, very good question. But Bob Fu, I think you're going to be waiting a long time for an answer because I don't think they will answer that question. The hypocrisy from corporate America is absolutely stunning. Bob Fu, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony, once again. God bless.